Professor Nam Yong Lee's long commentary, Beyond the Evils of the CSAT, Breaking the Prison of the Right Answer and Opening the Door to Deep Thinking. 1. The nature of the problem. Human thought begins not with answers but with relationships. There are fundamentally two types of problems in this world. Problems with a clear answer, deterministic problems, and problems without a clear answer, non-deterministic problems. Some questions, like mathematical equations, have a single correct solution. Yet the great questions of human society, economics, philosophy, politics, and science belong to the second category. They allow for multiple interpretations, perspectives, and paths forward. Human civilization has advanced not by repeatedly solving problems with predetermined answers, but by daring to confront those questions that have no ready-made solutions. However, the Korean education system, from kindergarten to graduate school, has focused almost exclusively on problems with fixed answers and has evaluated students on how quickly and accurately they can solve them. The result is a generation that can locate the right answer at great speed, but struggles to engage in truly deep thinking. The CSAT is built entirely on problems with predetermined answers. In Korean, mathematics, science, and English, the entire structure is designed to force students to choose a single correct option from a set of multiple choices. This is precisely the kind of task that machines perform better than human beings. Artificial intelligence already solves virtually all deterministic problems faster and more accurately than we do, but the ability to grapple with non-deterministic problems, those with no single correct answer, remains uniquely human. In the age of AI, the people who thrive will not be those who merely know the right answer, but those who can define problems that have no clear answer, navigate conflicting perspectives, and create new relationships between ideas, people, and systems. Yet, the Korean education system has completely forgotten this essential truth. We were taught how to memorize answers, but never taught how to ask meaningful questions. When an exam contains a question without a clearly defined answer, students feel anxious and teachers complain that it is unfair. In this culture, creativity, a spirit of challenge, and imagination slowly disappear. In the end, the higher a student's grades, the more likely it is that they will falter when they encounter the messy, answerless problems of real life too. A society built by the prison of exam answers, logical fools with stunted humanity. Korea is one of the most exam-obsessed countries in the world. Students are highly trained to select the correct answer, but poorly trained to think for themselves. The ability to define a problem, to interpret a situation, and to navigate human relationships is rarely evaluated and therefore rarely cultivated. As a result, the higher the academic achievement, the weaker the interpersonal skills. Intellectually sharp, but emotionally and socially immature, young adults are being produced in large numbers. Corporate HR managers repeatedly point to the same pattern. Elite graduates from top universities cannot function without a manual. They believe every problem has a correct answer and become deeply uneasy when forced to step outside of a predefined script. Yet real society is dominated by non-deterministic problems, questions that have no single right solution. Organizational crises, market disruptions, and human conflicts do not come with answer keys. In these spaces, only relationships, insight, and deep thinking can open a way forward. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Thomas Edison, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, and Chung Ju-young all lived in the realm of non-deterministic problems. Some dropped out of school. Others were ordinary or even underperforming students according to conventional standards. They did not build their lives by memorizing the right answers. Instead, they redefined problems and rewrote the rules by which the world operated. History has never been made by those who scored the highest on exams, but by those who changed the very framework of the questions. 3. The structural evils of the CSAT, reshaping society through answer-driven exams. The CSAT is not just a college entrance examination. It is the logical foundation and psychological shackle of Korean society. It is more than a test. It encodes and enforces a particular way of thinking at the national level. It lines up every student in a single row and reduces their worth to a numerical score. Within this structure, diversity, creativity, and humanity are quietly erased. According to the OECD Education Report 2024, Korean students rank 35th out of 37 countries in creativity, 33rd in autonomous thinking, and 31st in social collaboration, while topping the charts in short-term memory and problem-solving speed. In other words, the Korean system produces some of the smartest students in the world in a narrow academic sense, yet simultaneously some of the least creative. This is the true pathology of the CSAT. The exam exclusively tests deterministic problems. Year after year, students are trained to solve problems with fixed answers, while the real world outside grows ever more complex with problems that lack clear solutions. The gap between what education trains for and what reality demands has widened to a breaking point. Korea is no longer merely a republic of exams. It has become a prison of the right answer, arbihar, the failure of the Ministry of Education, a centralized system without freedom. The root of the CSAT problem lies less in the examination itself than in the excessive control exercised by the Ministry of Education. The ministry centrally designs and manages the entire apparatus from kindergarten curricula to university admissions. It intervenes in students' career paths, teaches classroom practices, and even in university departments. In such an environment, genuine freedom disappears and diversity is systematically suppressed. Under the principles of the Federal Enterprise Architecture, FEA, a nation's education system should be designed around autonomy and decentralization. The central government sets philosophical direction and fundamental standards. Actual implementation is entrusted to local authorities and universities. The United States, Germany, Japan, and Canada have already institutionalized such structures. Korea, however, still binds virtually every school to the directives of a single ministry. The result is an educational landscape in which creative experimentation is nearly impossible. Teachers are reduced to administrative workers, and students become mere experimental subjects for shifting national policies. The time has come to dismantle the centralized ministry model. Authority should be devolved to provincial and municipal education offices, allowing a regional, autonomy-based system to take root. Education should be designed in alignment with each region's industries, culture, and talent needs. While schools function as cooperative hubs of their local communities, the Ministry of Education must offer vision rather than micromanaging guidelines. The era of centralized control must come to an end. 5. A new paradigm. Evaluate questions, not just answers. Korea's evaluation system must be overturned from the ground up. We must move away from exams that reward the selection of the right answer and toward assessments that value the ability to ask questions and to demonstrate depth of thought. In elementary school, assessment should center on creative questioning and exploration. In middle school, it should emphasize essay writing, debate, and project-based learning. In high school, it should focus on problem-solving team projects and real-world challenges. The CSAT should be abolished. Universities should instead be empowered to evaluate applicants through a combination of essays, portfolios, interviews, and demonstrated capacity to tackle social issues. With the help of AI technology, we can build essay evaluation systems that measure students' writing, logic, creativity, and emotional expression in a structured and quantifiable way. Systems such as Tonitin in the United States, Eduction in Finland, and AI Writer in Japan already demonstrate how this can be done. Artificial intelligence can reduce grading bias, analyze patterns in student growth, and provide fair and consistent feedback. When education shifts to evaluating the ability to engage with problems that have no single answer, a student's entire life trajectory changes. Learning becomes no longer a series of exercises for exams, but a lifelong process for living meaningfully. 6. Autonomy for the private sector and universities. Government must choose trust over interference. To foster true diversity in education, the government must guarantee autonomy for both private education providers and universities. A university should not function as a factory, producing the kind of human resources the government happens to prefer at a given moment. Rather, each university should have the freedom and responsibility to define what kind of talent the era demands and to cultivate such individuals accordingly. Admissions policies, the establishment of departments, and the design of curricula should all fall under university self-governance. Evaluation and accountability should be ensured through transparent publication of results by international ranking and accreditation bodies. Private education, too, is not something to be tightly controlled by the state. In areas such as AI-based personalized learning, online education, vocational training, and entrepreneurship education, the private sector is often far more innovative and agile than public institutions. The government should act not as a regulator, suppressing experimentation, but as a guarantor of quality and fairness. Public education and private education should evolve into a relationship of cooperation, not hostility. Students should have genuine options, parents should have reason to trust the system, and teachers should enjoy real professional autonomy. Septem. The age of AI and deep thinking, placing humanity back at the center. Artificial intelligence will increasingly handle all deterministic problems. What it cannot replace, however, are the answerless domains of human life, questions of value, meaning, relationship, ethics, and creativity. Education in the age of AI must therefore be reoriented so that tasks machines can perform are delegated to AI, while capacities only humans possess are cultivated intentionally and systematically. This is what an education of deep thinking truly means. Deep thinking is not an abstract philosophical exercise. It is the ability to weave together data and logic, emotion and relationship into coherent insight and wise action. If AI computes the code, humans interpret the meaning. AI may discover patterns, but humans set purposes. This is the essential difference that must guide the future of education. The goal is not to produce human calculators, but to form individuals who can ask profound questions, connect disparate domains, and exercise judgment grounded in both reason and empathy. Hashat. Shakhstan zandan pasik, hai imtihan wa bazgardandan azadi tufakkir amik. Korea has spent decades teaching almost exclusively problems with predetermined answers. Yet the world moves and changes through problems that have no single solution. The true purpose of education is not to train students to choose the right option, but to raise people who, when confronted with problems that lack clear answers, do not shrink back in fear, but instead have the courage and wisdom to open new paths. Einstein did not need a test key to change our understanding of the universe, and Chung Ju-young did not complete elite schooling, yet built a corporate legend from nothing. They chose relationships over rigid answers, challenge over comfort, and reality over the illusion of exams. Korean education must now follow that path. We must move from right answers to deep thinking, from ruthless competition to meaningful relationships, from rote memorization to authentic creativity. Only then can Korea once again become a country that leads the world, not by the narrow metric of test scores, but by the breadth and depth of its human potential. This is the starting point of a true educational revolution. Thank you very much for watching.